It's three guys who combined to play 15 seasons in the National Football League trenches. Well, two guys. And Mackey, who didn't do shit. This is the OLine Committee.
Boy, Jeremiah's road weary from traveling all week around the country looking for the next generation of great offensive linemen. Booney's running all over with kids' limbs falling off. Here we are, OLine Committee, dead of the football offseason, boys.
Petey didn't even have a head. How'd you sell Petey? He didn't even have a head.
Harry, I took care of it.
Pretty bird.
Pretty bird.
Yeah, so first of all, what's
Pretty
going on with
bird.
Johnny's hand? Johnny's hand okay? Are we going to survive? We got to chop it off? Amputation?
I don't
It's
know.
like a Ronnie Lott situation, or what are we dealing with?
Nah, it's his pinky. It is his pinky. Yeah, it's right in the like big joint lining. He was sliding into 3 and it got hit by the ball and it stepped on at the same time. It's just a mess. So I think he's okay. They just told him he's not allowed to play till Friday, but he's on a hopefully play this
You're
weekend.
gonna have to get him one of those, baseball players sometimes wear the oven mitts when they're running the bases.
So
It's for
check this out.
exact reason.
Every kid has one on the team,
It
right?
looks goofy, but yeah.
Every kid has one. They're called sliding mitts. Johnny has one, and he had like the Bruce Bolt ones, right? His coaches won't let him put it on because it takes him too long to put it on. So he doesn't have enough time to put it on and get ready. So they're like, he just can't. Problem is, his coach is his mom. So she's like, I'm not. I'm like, hey, aren't you supposed to have a sliding glove?
Bus
Why the
thrower.
fuck are you wearing it, right? And he's
Just
like,
absolute bus thrower.
he goes,
It's cold.
he goes, Coach said I can't wear it. I go, okay, Coach. Why can't he wear the fucking sliding mitt that I paid for? She's like, because it takes him like a fucking half an hour to put it on. And he can't have time to put it on. She's always fucking lollygagging. So basically, he fucked his finger up because he didn't put his oven mitt on because he takes too fucking long. And my wife's like, just like everything in life, Judge, too long, man. Just taking your time. It's not your world. Dude, I remember when my mom used to yell at me like that. And I totally get it now. Like, I see his side of it because he's like, whatever, what's the hurry? And then I see my wife's side of it where it's like, the game doesn't wait for you, dude. Like, you got to fucking go. So
I need to know where's the line in your day where you stop calling her coach and then refer to her again by her name or wife. Like when do you refer to her as coach versus hey baby?
most of the time, anytime on the field, it's always coach. Sometimes maybe at night, late at night, it's interesting. Sometimes I gotta help out to get Johnny a better position in the order.
Oh,
but
okay.
for the most part, when she turns into coach mode, she's not fucking around. Jay knows. Jay's
Dude,
seen her.
the thing that's funny is when I stay at their place, like he refers to her as Boone, right? So he'll be like, "Hey, Boone," and I'll be like, "It's just like so weird in my brain, like because he'll call her like Boone, and it's just like, wait, you're Boone. She's not Boone. You're Boone." I call
my wife Mackey. I call my wife Mackey from time to time.
I think if I called my wife Sirles, she'd be like, "Are you stupid?" Like, no, I'm sorry, I won't do that again.
CTE? What's happening right now?
No, you don't want to know the kids' nicknames. It's terrible.
It'll be another episode.
But yeah, no, I did 37 hours, 2,200 miles, 6 states in 6 days last week. So I was crushed when I got home. Absolutely crushed when I got home. My wife wanted to watch Game of Thrones Sunday night. I was like, yeah, sure. Sat down, made it maybe 8 minutes, and I was just dozing. And she's like, go to bed. I was like, okay, yeah, good night. Yeah, that was a grind. That was one of the harder road trips I've been a part of. That was that was a grinder for sure.
The glamorous life of being a sports agent.
Up to Drake.
Harvey, North Dakota, basically Canada. I will say this. I got there at 7 p.m. Right? I got there at 7 p.m. And the sun, it was so high in the sky. It literally looked like it was like 3 in the afternoon. So I like Googled, like, is there a local golf course? Because I had my clubs with me. And I was like, oh, there's a little 9-hole course. Cool. I called the person. I was like, hey, just pulled into town. Like, do you guys have any tee time? She goes, tea times. She goes, it's Monday. Just show up. It's men's night. I was like, oh, okay. And so I show up. She goes, just jump on with this group in front of you. I pull up. I have a polo on, some shorts, right? This dude in front of me has long frizzy hair, Crocs, and athletic shorts on. The other guy he's golfing with has a cut-off T-shirt that's like cut all the way down the sides, steel-toed boots, and he told me it was his first time ever golfing. And it was an adventure. It was a pure adventure. It was so fun too. But we ended up golfing till like 10:15 at night because it was so bright outside.
Yeah.
Like my wife called me. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm still golfing." She's like, "It's dark." I was like, "It's not. Like it's still very bright outside." Like we're so far north in the sun right away, 5 a.m, right back up. Bing.
Right back up.
But no, I had a lot of fun. Cordell, one of my clients, had his camp. A bunch of kids. We had 500 plus kids 2 days in a row. I mean, it was a blast, a lot of fun, but I was very happy to get home.
Yeah. So here we are. Today's gonna be part 3 of the offensive line rankings.
The finale,
We've got
boys.
some mics.
This is it.
This is the rankings finale. Well, you guys are. I don't know. You guys are. I wanted to call this episode, which we probably still will, the 10 worst offensive lines.
No,
the 10
don't do
most
that.
Garbage.
Listen,
do
don't
that.
do that.
The 10
Don't do that.
You
Don't do that.
clickbait machine.
I'll
Stop
tell you
it.
right now, you're going to get your ass beat. The next time I see you, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get your ass beat.
But we called Lions, Eagles, Chiefs, Brown. We called that episode the 10 best offensive lines in the league.
Correct.
And then we did the middle section last week.
Yeah.
So we've got
The
10
10
more
with the
lists
most
to rank.
to prove.
Final
It's the-
ranking
it's-
of
it's
O-line.
the 10. It's the 10 with the most to prove.
Yes.
It's the
10
10
with the
O-lines
most upside?
with the most to prove. No, not upside. The most to prove.
Most to prove.
The
Yeah, they
10
have
with
to
the
prove.
least to lose.
Hey.
The
I
10
think Boone and I might have some differences here. I think that
Well,
this is where it started getting hard. Like this is where you're really projecting because you're thinking new starters, lots of people left. Like so far, I think we've been pretty on it. I think it'll be curious to see how we end this.
By the way, I just want you to know this. I put a lineup in here for the Saints. Okay?
You already
And I
had
went-
the Saints. You
I know.
already picked the Saints.
I know. I just want you to know this. I put the lineup in here, right? Based on what I thought it would be, Penning, Ole, McCoy, Ruiz, and Talise. And you were like, where's Ramczyk? And it was exactly right. I had looked. Ramczyk's still recovering. They're worried
He'll be
about it.
back. He'll be
They
back
don't
by
think
week
he will,
one.
though. That's the thing, is everyone's like, we're not sure if he is going to be back. Like, dude has taken a hellacious career. He's been a badass for a long time. And that's why I just wanted to clarify that I like those tackles. And I'm just letting you know. And it goes into this, like, that's why it's so hard to do these next lines. Like, number one, there's a lot of youth on them. So you're kind of like, dude, this could go either way. I don't know. Does somebody in the room stand the fuck up and go, hey, everyone's saying we're like the bottom 5. Are we going to get any better? Or are we going to get a little bit worse? Like, you can only go in either direction. You're never staying the same. So that's why I agree with you. And I'm sure that we are going to be completely all over the board on this. I'm just dying to know who your 32nd team is. I have no idea.
You
Mackey
both
knows.
texted me. You both
I
texted
know.
me who you think the other person's worst offensive line is.
Who does he think I have?
Oh, I'm sorry, not
we'll
worst
get there.
offensive line.
We'll-
Offensive line
we'll get
with
there.
the most to learn.
Most
To
prove.
improve.
The most-
to prove.
Yeah.
Prove. Okay. All right, Jay. Then start us off at 23. Here we go.
All right, 23. Right. So for 23, I have Seattle. Right. Or is it 22? Are we on
No, it's
22?
23.
23.
23.
Yeah.
Right. So 23.
Wait.
I
Your
have-
22 is Pittsburgh, right?
Correct. My 22 is Pittsburgh. So my 23 is Seattle. I think when their tackles are healthy, they're both extremely young and very good in Charles Grant and Abe Lucas, but they were both hurt most of the last year. They lost their center, right? So I believe that Olu, the 5th-round pick out of Michigan, is going to be their starter at center. And then you have Laken Tomlinson and Anthony Bradford on their guards. Not a star-studded lineup. Solid when they're healthy, but not a lot of depth there. I mean, Stone Forsythe started for them multiple times last year. So I think they lack a little bit of the depth, but I really like the young tackles. I don't love the interior. And brand new starting center, that's tough.
Yeah.
Right. So 24, I got the Jags. Got the Jags at 24, right? You got Cam Robinson. Antoine Harrison's going to go right tackle going into his 2nd year. Mitch Morris in the middle there bolts them from a bottom tier to kind of more up into that top 20s for me. Just
That's
because
an interesting one.
He's a Pro Bowl caliber player, right? He's a Pro Bowl caliber player. And then you got Brandon Sheriff, who's on the back end of his career, who's been incredible for a long time, but again, battled a lot of injuries. And then Will Little's kind of the weak point of that guy, of that group at the left guard position.
Real quick, because we're going to do a just cheap plug. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel here. And if you haven't already, click the subscribe button, please. If you haven't, on the OLine Committee YouTube channel, and the like button. Help us spread the word here, this offensive line lifestyle podcast. But we're doing a Jaguars pre-ankle sprain film breakdown of what they looked like when they were 8-3. They beat the Texans on the road. You bring in Mitch Morse, by the way, just doing some homework for the film breakdown. So his career, Kansas City with young Patrick Mahomes.
Love Mitch.
And then Buffalo with young Josh Allen. And now he comes over to work with a still very young Trevor Lawrence. Just like one of the more under talked about centers, I feel like, in the NFL, Mitch Morse.
Oh,
Just
for
gonna throw
sure.
it out there.
But you got to remember, this is coming from a time of Jason Kelsey, who is phenomenal, right? You have Creed Humphreys, who's really doing a phenomenal job as of lately. Like, there's a lot of guys that have kind of started to step into these roles that I feel like Mitch kind of gets shit on because he was a part of that ragtag group in Buffalo. Like those guys that just kind of came out and punched you in the mouth. But everything that I've ever heard about Mitch Morse and his film, whenever I watched him, is always amazing, and people love him to death.
He kind of started the trend of the big center, right? Like Mitch Morse is 6'5". He played tackle at Missouri, bumped inside the center, can run. He's long. Like he started the trend of like, maybe if a guy that's like 6'5" but doesn't have the girth or the length to play tackle, what if we put him at center as a super athlete? Right. And Mitch started that trend, and that's when you're starting to see some more guys go along that path down there. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's a great pickup for Jacksonville. I know, Booney, you had them higher. I have the Miami Dolphins at 25.
That's fine.
I have the Dolphins at 25 there, right? Teron Armstead is their stalwart left tackle. He's been in the league forever. Injuries have been an issue with him pretty much his entire career. Isaiah Wynn, the former first-round pick to the Patriots, I believe, is penciled in to be the starting left guard. You got Brewer at center, Jones at right guard, and then Jackson from USC, the first rounder a couple of years ago at right tackle. You know, so you start talking about, okay, the tackle position's pretty good, but again, a ragtag group in the middle there, guys that are really kind of unproven. They lose Hunt going to Carolina, right, who was one of the top guards in the league. I'll be curious to see how they can put everything together. I have at 26, this is where I have the Saints. Right, so I have the Saints down here at 6. The lineup I had is Penning, Fuaga, McCoy, Ruiz, and Ramczyk. Right, I do think if Ramczyk's back, but again, Trevor Penning is an interesting case. He's a first rounder. He's a guy that had a ton of promise. He's had issues. I mean, they're not sure. They draft Fuaga in the first round, so are they replacing Penning? Are they moving on from Penning? Right, that's a big question mark for there. They have a new OLine coach down there too. So everything's different in that room. Everything's different in that room, which is why they dropped here. And then, I have one more here? 27?
27. Yeah.
And then 27, I have the Titans. I have the Titans there, so they're going to have J.C. Latham, their 7th overall pick, I think, start at left tackle. They'll have Skoronski, the first round pick from last year, in there. They bring Lloyd Cushenberry in over from Denver. And then you have Daniel Brunskill, Dylan Radins on the right side. If you just take out the right side and say, hey, just this left side has the potential in a couple years to be the Dallas Cowboys of what they were when you talk about all the first-round picks. They kind of start coming into their own. Like Cushenberry's a stud. Peter Skoronski's going into his second year. J.C. Latham's a top-tier player. Like that left side is stacked. The right side's the giant question marks, right? Brunskill and Dylan Radins. He's a second-round pick out of NDSU 4 years ago now. Like this is his year to do it. Essentially, this is a contract year for him. If this doesn't work, they're going to replace him. But they did bring Bill Callahan over from Cleveland.
Love him.
One of the greatest O-line coaches ever, right? And what he's done everywhere he's been. I mean, you talk about what he did with the Commanders back in like the Hog days, right? Then goes to the Cowboys, then goes to Cleveland. Like everywhere he's gone, he's turned them into top 10 O-lines. So this could be another one that if he gets the most out of this group, they could vault very quickly as well.
Kind of a sneaky offseason for them, you know?
Yes.
They've
a little bit.
I know they made the controversial coaching change, and if Will Levis
If
pans
Will Levis
out,
is the question mark, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
There's a lot there.
I mean, they had Malik Willis the year before, right? Like, what Will Levis are we getting? Are we getting the one that can just throw it to DeAndre Hopkins 100 yards at a time and figure it out, or can he actually pick apart defenses? We'll know more this year as he goes into the years of the full starter.
yeah,
Agreed. Okay. Hey, who'd you have at 25?
Dolphins.
Miami.
Dolphins. That's why I didn't write it down. I was thinking while you said that.
So give us your next 5, 23 through 27 here.
23. I have the Broncos. I know that you had them up a little bit higher than me. I think you had them at 20. We see them the same. I mean, I think they're a good group. They could play well. I think last year with Russell was just disastrous. And I think at times it fell on Russell and at times it fell on them. And I think at times you have to man that challenge. I think they could be good this year, but for me, it's going to be how well does Bo Nix play as a rookie? And they're going to have to be an offensive line that really goes out and fucking dominates people. Dude, you guys are in a really hard division, right? Like, I'm not going to say who I was talking to, but I was talking to someone from the Chargers, and we were talking about their season coming up, and they were like, dude, we already know, man, first week, Vegas Raiders, it's coming down. Fucking fist fight in a back alley. They're like, that's exactly how this shit's going to go down. Like, I'm already hearing from teams that are like, we fucking know and we're ready. We're going to have our boys ready to roll. And it's like, listen, guys, you're in a really tough division. And by the way, those two teams and the KC Chiefs are in this division. Like, you better come out and fuck shit up if you want to have this rookie safe. So I put them up there. 24, I have the Jaguars. I think, where did you have them? Same
24.
thing. 24. And I solely did it because of Mitch Morris. I'm a huge Mitch Morris fan. These tackles on the Jaguars drive me nuts. Cam, his times just drives me nuts because I think he could be playing a lot better, and he's not. But I think Mitch Morris is a hell of a player, and that's why I have them as high as they do. 25, I have the Giants. Obviously, I think if both tackles, and I have them here now. I think this is one of those teams that if both tackles show up this year, you get J. Mike in the middle playing well, you get Runyon playing well. I think this could be a team that could kind of ascend, I guess you would say. They're an ascending team, in my opinion, if the tackles show up the way that we think they do. 26, I have the Bears. I think.
Whoa, that's a big discrepancy. That's our biggest discrepancy.
That is our biggest discrepancy.
And I got Bears at 14.
14, I know. And that's why I'm kind of, same thing. Last year, I didn't see what I wanted to see from them. At times, it's like, hey, you have such a mobile quarterback. Why is this so fucking hard? And then all of a sudden, you watch the tape, and hell, we broke the tape down, Jay. We were like, ME's all over the board. Like, those things show up. And one ME in a game can fuck up the fourth quarter so fast because everybody's in their head now. So for me, could they be a good unit? Absolutely. You have one of the best, they say, quarterbacks in the draft. Let's go out and see you guys do it now. 27, I have the Cardinals. I like
sneaky run game last year, by the way.
Sneaky run game. And I do like the fact that what's his name's getting moved to left. Do I like the Jonah Williams signing?
He played well at right tackle for the Bengals last year. They drafted 3 offensive linemen too, I believe.
They need it, dude. They need offensive linemen.
They restocked that room with some young players.
I agree. But now you got to go out and prove it. Once again, very tough division. I mean, obviously you don't have to worry about 9-9 over in LA anymore, but you play in the Niners, you're playing Seattle. That's always in that. It's crazy too, sidebar, how you can go from one team, the Niners, to go up into Seattle, and it's like, no matter what we do, we could never win. And then you go to another team that, like, the Niners beat the piss out of all the time, and they're like, Seattle, that team's a fucking joke. And they go up and win all the time. I was like, how do you do this? Can you teach me what you're doing? They're like, oh, BA just loves to run duo at them until they're dead. I'm like, oh, so you're just running the ball 60 times. Like, yeah, same play, 60 times, over and over, 22 duo, baby, 22 duo. It works. Fucking beat them up there. But, yeah, the Cardinals for me are 27.
Okay. So the biggest discrepancies, Bears, you guys also had the Packers like 10 apart. Jay had the Packers 9th.
9.
Booney had them 8-19.
Yeah.
So Packers, Bears, and then Dolphins, I guess, are kind of the biggest discrepancies.
All right, tough guy.
Okay.
Let's see what you got. Round us
So
out.
now,
Finish
here
it
we go.
off.
Okay, these are the 5 offensive
the
lines.
5 offensive
Most
lines.
to improve.
Most to improve. The
Okay.
most to prove in the 2024 season. At number 28.
The 5 that have the most space to climb.
Yes, there you go.
There you go.
The most opportunity to climb and move up.
There you go.
To let a
28.
naysayer know. All right, number 28. The Panthers. The Panthers I have at number 28. You've got Ike Ngakoue. You've got Damian Lewis. Corbett's at center. Don't love that. And then you bring Robert Hunt and Taylor Moton. Again, right side, solid as they can be. Right, Hunt was a top-tier guard. I think Taylor Morton's a very good right tackle in this league. I was with him when he was in his second year, and the dude is an athletic freak. He got paid 2 years ago, I believe. Like, he's a very, very good right tackle. Icky struggled in his second year. I thought he had a better rookie year than a sophomore year. That can happen, right? But he's got to show up, too, and be the top 10 pick that he was in the draft class, right? So I got the Panthers there. I got Vegas at 28. Right, I got Vegas with Colton Miller, Whitehair. I think they start Jackson Powers Johnson, the second-round pick at center there. And then you got Dylan Parham and then T. Munford. I mean, the really Whitehair's kind of just been stringing along on his career. Parham's been a solid player, but the tackles here, Colton Miller's probably their best player. Right, I don't love Mudford Jr. on the right side. I don't think that he's a mainstay there. I think he's going to get looked as a stopgap starter this year. They look to be replaced. Then I got 30. I have the Cardinals. So I have the Cardinals at 30. Right, again, Paris Johnson's going over to the left now. Jonah Williams. But in the middle, it's Evan Brown, Froedholt, and Will Hernandez. I mean, again, they drafted Isaiah Adams out of Illinois. I think he may make a push to try and be a starter there. They drafted some other guys. I mean, that room is very crowded. There's gonna be a lot of competition. Wouldn't surprise me if they go young on the interior to try and start some guys there. At 31, I have the Commanders. Right, so the Commanders at 31, Braden Daniels. He was a 3rd-round pick out of Utah last year. Spent the year on IR.
Commanders where?
31.
30?
I think 31. I think he ends up starting at left tackle. They signed Nick Algretti from Kansas City, which I thought was an interesting signing based off a guy that only started like 3 or 4 games, and they paid him starter money, right? Like he came in when Joe Thuney got hurt and helped him all the way to the Super Bowl, yes, but he's very unproven of being a 17-game starter. They bring Tyler Biotish in from the Cowboys, right? But again, he's a guy that's getting older on his side. Sam Cosmi and then Andrew Wiley. Just kind of a ragtag group. Like there's not a lot of congruency there. You know, they drafted a kid out of Ricky Stromberg out of Arkansas 2 years ago, I thought, to be the starting center, and then they go sign Biotish, so they obviously don't have a ton of faith in him, right? So it's just a lot of question marks in that room, new staff, new room. Like I think it's going to be a little bit all over the board for them. And then 32 in the final is the Patriots. I have the Patriots at 32, right? Cole Strange, David Andrews, Sidney Sow, who's going to his 6th-round pick, going into his 2nd year. And then you have Okafor and Amenwu on the edges. Not who you want as your stalwart tackles, not in that division. That group's a mess. I mean, and it just goes back to why when they drafted Drake Maye, we're going, man, that poor dude, we may never know how good Drake Maye is unless they start putting some guys up in front of him. So that rounds it out there for me.
Boone, we're gonna count this for you. Boone texted again last week. Boone was trying to figure out who Jeremiah's 32 was. It's just text me who you think it is. And Boone said it's either the Panthers or the Patriots. Jay will have at 32.
I knew it.
So
for sure.
We'll give you credit for that. All right, Patriots.
All right. I thought the Panthers were a little high on your board, but that's okay. I'll give you that. I'm all right.
At 28, by the way.
They brought Robert Hunt in. It's hard for me to mean when you look at who I have below them, they don't have a solid side.
That's fine. It's fine. All right, here we go. At 28 on my board, I have the Tennessee Titans. I agree with you. I really do like the J.C. Latham signing. I think they could be a really good team. I think that they have the best offensive line coach in the NFL in Coach Callahan. I am hearing stories about him that I am making me love him even more. Like when they were like, dude, you prepared us so well because this coach was really hard. I was like, really? They were like, yeah, he was exactly like you said he was. I was like, oh, yes. So excited. Oh, he's awesome. Awesome. All right, 29. I have Seattle. I love Seattle to death, but I think the fact that their tackles are young and they were both hurt last year, for me, there is a lot to prove here. And it's going to be a tough year again. It's so hard for me sometimes to talk about Seattle because when I played Seattle and the Niners, they were a different team, in my opinion. They had a different mindset. They had a different mentality, and they've kind of like split off into a different road now. And they're not the team that they used to be, and they're not this, we're going to come out and punch you right in the fucking face, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And it's weird for me to see them not be like that, but at the same time, I think they have the foundation to be a really good team this year. Their offensive line is going to have to take some steps, but I mean, I think 29 is a fair point for them. Where did you have them?
I had them at 23.
23.
23. That's right. You had them way up there.
Discrepancy. Yeah.
That's all right. All right. Number 30. I had the Patriots for the exact reasons that you said. And I think that Drake Maye, they're going to have to get creative up front. I think there's going to be a lot of play action, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But for some reason, I'm going to have to say they win the division because it can't be the Jets for any reason.
Do we confirm? Was it an ayahuasca?
You're saying the Patriots, dude, they're over under win totals like 2.
Listen, you're
like Vegas has them at like 4, maybe 4 total wins.
It's like 4
and you're saying they're going to win.
We're going to have to get them into an ayahuasca retreat. And
I'll do a steak and a beer bet with you right now that they don't win the division.
Okay. Look
at that! Look how confident Mr. Boone is when there's money on the table.
The steak and a beer has to be in an ayahuasca
Yes,
retreat.
it has to be drenched in ayahuasca, and then we'll eat the steak.
What's wrong with you?
In the dark room.
Oh,
yeah, can I do the sauteed mushrooms and some ayahuasca drizzle?
Just go ahead. Just drizzle it on there. All of it. Yeah. It's all good.
The special mushrooms.
31. We had the same exact 31 team, the Commanders. We both see them. Washington, they're out there. They're trying to do what they can. They're a new team. Jaden Daniels at quarterback, same thing. But I don't know. I think Dan Quinn is a great coach. And I think that that's kind of the one thing that separates from where the Patriots and Washington were in my book was the Patriots have a new coach. And that's going to obviously be very interesting, especially when you don't walk in with a badass O-line. Like when Gerard Mayo played there, they were a different team. And I think he's probably realizes that. But at the same time, it's going to be a lot harder when you get out there and you start playing. Then Dan Quinn will – obviously he's I have a little bit more faith in him because he's been here before and he knows what he's doing. And I used to play him all the time, and I used to fucking
got Bobby
hate that
Johnson
guy.
as the O-line coach,
dude. And number 32, without further ado, the Panthers. I put them down there just because I don't know if it's the fact that the owner drives me nuts or what, but everything about this team, I just feel like there's no fixing it until that guy fixes himself. Like no matter what you do, and I say that because I've been in situations where you're like, this team will never get better unless that one guy gets better. Like this just can't be. It's not physically possible because everybody's always looking up. And if you look up, you just see bullshit after bullshit and train wreck after train wreck. You're like, well, this is never going to get better. So I think they have some really good players, like you said, Hunt and Moten. I think they're great players. Icky needs to play a lot better this year. Damian Lewis, I played with him in Seattle. He's gifted as all fuck. I mean, he was one of the most incredible players I've ever played with. But in my opinion, he's got to get his head on straight. And I think that this could be one of those teams that if those two guys start playing well, this could be an O-line that comes out of nowhere because I have seen one of them play in person and played next to him. But at the same time, I think the leadership of that team needs to get better.
So, wow. Okay. I actually have, let's go through the final rankings here. And then I have mics I want to throw at you guys based on your rankings.
Hit it.
Okay. I like it.
So Jay, we're going 23 through 32. Seahawks, Jags, Dolphins, Saints, Titans, Panthers, Raiders, Cardinals, Commanders, Patriots at the bottom.
Yes.
And then Booney's going Broncos, Jags, Giants, Bears, Cardinals, Titans, Seahawks with Patriots, Commanders, Panthers rounding it out. And by the way, if you guys didn't see we did the top 10 2 weeks ago. We did the middle 10 or the middle 12, I guess.
We'll have to put a graphic out and see, people have to vote. We got to put it to the people who they think has the better list.
Put it out to the list.
And there's some similar themes. It is the people show. You got Lions at the top. Each of you.
It's a people show. I think we started disagreeing at number 2. You had the Browns and I had Philly, and I was still obsessed about that. We agreed. We agreed a lot in the middle. Dallas, we had the same. Trying to think of who else we had in there. Oh, we had the Jets were the same. I mean, there's some teams that we both agree on, but I think towards the end, Jay's right. I think there's a lot. These bottom 10 teams that have the most to improve. There's just so much unknown going into this season that you're like, this is where I see you now. Could you get better? Absolutely, you could. Yeah. But right now, this is where I'm putting you.
But like if you nailed a franchise left tackle, boom, all of a sudden now you go from 30th to 15th or something.
Correct. Or flip. Maybe you guys come out and you just start playing really, really well. I mean, a lot of these guys have not, and this is what's so cool about the offensive line unit is that you need 4 other guys to play well with you. A lot of these offensive lines are going to be new this year. Like there's always movement around the league. And so here's one of the things that I was going to say earlier was in the Jets, there was a report that came out today. And this is why this is a great example of the Jets could go down because they're already talking about how Tyron's going to need a lot of time off. And they've already said the offensive line hasn't even played together this offseason. Like instantly you're like, fuck, that's a lot of catch up to be done in 1 month, right? Like Vera Tucker came off the Achilles, Morgan Moses off the pec. You're like, shit, I forgot all those guys were hurt. Fuck. All right. That changes my mindset, right? Like, could it go well? Could Olu step up into one of those spots? Absolutely. But at the same time, you're going to need a lot of guys that were hurt last year or an older guy to step in. Like the rankings could change weekly. I mean, teams could drop and go up and down, and we should continue to follow this through the year and see how we stack up, like what we think as we continue.
Yeah, I mean, and to that same point, a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, maybe Mitch Morse was the final piece that was missing, right? Just as much as it is like one guy getting hurt. Sometimes just adding one, excuse me, my voice is still trash from yelling at kids all weekend for the camp. So, like, sometimes it's just one guy away from clicking and becoming a good unit, right? Like, you put Mitch Morse in there, now there's no more MEs. Like, everyone's lined up. Everyone knows where we're going. Like, if all that stuff starts clicking into place, then everyone starts playing better and you can go, right? As much as it's weird, like, and that was part of my issue with getting these final 10 is it's so much projection. Like, is J.C. Latham going to be a stud right away, or is he going to have rookie struggles, right? That could be another one. Like, is when you look at the Commanders, like, does bringing Nick Algretti and Tyler Biadasz elevate that room to a whole nother level? Because you've got guys that have been there, done that, won Super Bowls, done playoff runs, like the whole bit. Like, sometimes those type of characters in the room can really elevate everyone's play.
So let's do some mics here. I'm just gonna give you, by the way, if you're new to the show, who's the mic, where we identify the biggest things on our mind around the football world every week. I'm gonna throw 3 mics on the table at the same time, based on your list here, because if you just look at the bottom 5, you guys have Commanders, Patriots, and Panthers that you match, not exactly, but all in your bottom 5, or 5 with the most to prove, right? So my 3 mics are Bryce Young, Drake Maye, and Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
What does it mean for those guys that they've got offensive lines that aren't very reliable?
Number 1, this is just our ranking. Number 2, every year is a clean slate. They obviously a new coach, new teams, new
Number
new
3, they're screwed.
They're not. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of this goes down every year, and people are like, everyone's saying we're gonna have one of the worst O-lines, but no one really knows. Jay's right. Who knows who the final piece is to get put in? That's like, we're done with this shit. We're gonna flip ourselves around. Whether it's somebody on the Commanders, somebody on the Panthers, somebody on the Patriots. I don't know who it is. Maybe all of a sudden the run game starts clicking early on in the season, and dudes start getting better, and the play action picks up. Like, there's so many variables that go into this. I think we're just looking at this from a standpoint of like, if I was ranking these O-lines on who I would want to protect me, this is the order that I would put them in, because this is the most confident that I feel. Now, that's not to say that the Panthers in my book are 32. Who's to say that they don't end up number 10? Because Icky shows up, and all of a sudden Lou shows up. You got Robert Hunt in there now kicking ass, and you got Moton on the edge. Like, who's to say they don't dominate this year and their team takes off? And all of a sudden we're like, see, they're a good team. There we go. All of a sudden they move around. But I think it's right now, it's like, if you're looking at that from a quarterback standpoint, yeah, you probably get a little bit nervous. You look at last year and you're like, shit, this is going to be a long year. But you have to go in thinking, hey, we're going to change something. The run game's going to be better. I'm going to be better than last year's quarterback. I'm going to be a better version of myself last year. There's a lot of things that go into that.
I'm a little more on your side, Mac. I mean, they're all going to struggle, right? I mean, if we're saying this right now, I mean, very unlikely that I'll say maybe 1 out of that group of 3 you said has a super successful rookie campaign. But that just comes to nature when you're picking 1, 2, and 3. Like, if you're picking that high, it means your team has a lot of holes, and there's only you can't fix all those holes in 1 year, right? It takes time, and so you start talking about Jaden Daniels and Drake Maye and Caleb Williams and all those young quarterbacks, and even Bryce Young going to his second year. Like, how much can they personally put on their shoulder and say, "I will fix this myself"? When Adam Thielen's still your number 1 receiver in Carolina. Right, and I know you drafted that backwoods by you,
dude. South Carolina, the receiver, that's the linebacker.
He's one of my favorite people to listen to talk. Right, like, well, daggone, like he's incredible, but can he step in and be a game changer? And so much that comes down to
Deontay Johnson's there too, right? Didn't they landed?
Yes, but he's always kind of been a mess with Pittsburgh. So I don't know. I still think Adam Thielen's the most reliable receiver in that room right now. But you start looking across the board and you go, okay. Speaking O-line specifically, like, what's a tendency of a rookie quarterback? What do they like to do? They like to pat that football. They like to sit back there and hold on to it and not be super, super confident in their first read, letting it rip. And they'll learn very quickly that even with an elite O-line, if you pat the football for more than 3 seconds, someone's going to be in your face. Now you're talking about an average to a below average offensive line, that number gets sped up. Now you're talking about like 2.1, 2.2 seconds. That ball better be gone or else someone's going to be right in your face, right? And that's where you put the combination of the subpar O-line with a young quarterback. That's when disaster strikes. So I still think it's going to be a disaster beginning part of the season for all those guys you just mentioned, just because they're still going to be trying to figure things out because those guys haven't proven anything in the NFL yet.
So call this a hot take. I would not play Drake Maye until 2025. If you guys are right on this, Patriots are a work in progress offensive line. I've looked at a list of their weapons, and I've also looked at a list of 5 random people just in America, I can't distinguish the two lists.
Right.
Why would you? I get that Boston fans and New England area fans are going to be clamoring for let's get the shiny new car out of the garage. Let's see how it drives, right? But if my offensive line is in question and the weapons are in question, and there's really no in that division, you're not winning 10 games. Even I wouldn't play Drake Maye until 2025. Is that a hot take?
No, it's not.
No.
I mean, we talked about this pre-draft. Why I said they shouldn't draft Drake Maye. That's why I said it's why I said you should draft a Joe Walt, or an Olu Fashanu, or one of the neighbors, or Harrison, or whatever you can. Like, that if your team's going to be in rough shape, don't draft the quarterback right now. Like, put the pieces around him and then draft the quarterback. Right? That was always my take from it. But again, I think that Elliot Wolf, who is their pseudo facto GM, like, it can't be an official title, like, because they haven't interviewed anyone. But I think he's an extremely intelligent individual. I think he's very smart, very respected in the front offices of the world. His dad used to be a GM for the Packers for a long time. Like, this dude's been around football forever. And so I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't have a plan. Like, Elliott has a plan. Elliot Wolf has a plan for the Patriots, and maybe it is sitting Drake Maye and say, hey, we wanted to get this guy because maybe we looked at next year's class. We don't love anyone that's in that class, but we're going to build around him through this year. We're going to let him sit. We're going to do our thing. But as you know, as games get lost and fans get a little uneasy and ticket sales stop going in the tank a little bit, all it takes is Robert Kraft to give one little knock on Elliot Wolf's door and be like, hey, 3rd overall pick, put him in. And all right, I guess that plan I had is out the window, right? Like, that's all it takes in the NFL to derail a plan like that.
Gosh, the Panthers. All right. On one hand, people love to overreact to one bad rookie season. Oh, this guy's garbage. Josh Allen's a classic example. Joe Burrow wasn't lighting it up his first year. Give a guy a full year to process, another year to draft better players and infrastructure. So I'm not out on Bryce Young for all those reasons. You got to give a guy a second year and maybe more.
100%.
But ownership situation there. I mean, you were in Carolina with David Tepper when he was new. Really quick to fire coaches. Because of that, they wind up taking a chance on 43-year-old Dave Canales. So, okay, second year, we're already resetting a head coach. We're resetting the entire staff, system. Adam Thielen, as of right now, is their 33-year-old number one wide receiver. I guess I'm just saying, in the offensive line, you guys agree is a work in progress. I worry about Bryce Young going into his second year. This is a huge year for him in the organization, it feels like to me. Or you could wind up kind of permanently ruining a guy like Sam Darnold or David Carr back in the day. I'm just a little nervous for Bryce Young.
No, I don't blame you. I think that for all the reasons that we just said, there are not enough weapons around him, and your offensive line is in progress. I do like the Robert Hunt signing. What did he sign? He ended up signing for like $100 million, right?
$100 million.
It was like $20 million a year or something.
$100 million, man. I mean, I do like the Robert Hunt signing. I think it's addressing a serious issue up front, but I'm with you. Number one, I'm not going to come down on him and say he's not a good player just because, number one, we watched the film. It's hard to even navigate those fields, especially when there's so much going on that, like, when coaches are getting fired and everyone's losing their job and everything around you is exploding and they're expecting you to be the man to step up and you're a rookie and you're getting the living shit knocked out of you every game. You're like, dude, fuck that, right? Like, now you saw it. Now you got to go back and hit it, right? Like, it's kind of like I tell the boys in baseball when they take that strike. Now you saw it. Now you got to hit it. And he saw that first year. Now you got to come back and play better. You have to find a way. And whether it's Canales, he has to be smart. I mean, there's so many things and I think that this is going to be the challenge for coaches, especially a coach like him that comes in on a team that didn't play well last year. There's a lot of people looking at them wondering how big of a bust is this quarterback. But yet I look around this league and I see so much creativity. And I see coaches being able to dominate teams through creativity and not so much speed and strength as much as it's being like, hey, we're smarter than you. So I'm curious how smart these new coaches are. And I think, honestly, guys like Andy Reid continuing to come out every year and come up with new plays is putting a lot more pressure on these coaches to go, now what the fuck can you do? Like, I've been doing this for 40 years. This is your first year. Dazzle me. And I think that gives them a chance. But at the same time, yeah, they're not starting off in a pretty position. We all agree their offensive line's at the bottom. They had a shitty year. If Thielen really is your number one receiver, you're not in the best position to stretch the field. And at the same time, defensively, like, you got rid of one of your players that really helped you become better. And now all of a sudden you're like, okay, now where are we? what's your saving grace? You're not in the greatest division. You're not in the toughest division. You're not in this division that's going to like blow your socks off and be like, oh my God. Now Atlanta did get Kirk.
He's in Kirk's division.
Saints will still be the Saints, and at the same time,
Baker and the Bucks, top
the Bucks.
Bulls was sneaky.
Can Baker come back and do it again? I mean, it's going to be interesting.
I mean, Canales' resume is interesting because he's been a Pete Carroll guy going back to USC and the 2009-10, and then he winds up squeezing a lot as a quarterbacks coach and an offensive coordinator. A lot of statistics out of Russell Wilson that weren't there before. Then he was the offensive coordinator for Geno Smith's career turnaround. And then the next year for Baker Mayfield's career turnaround in Tampa Bay. Now, okay, how much credit do you give the coordinator versus the player that gets the second chance? I don't know. It's an interesting hire. Makes me a little nervous for Jay's old team, though.
I hope that – right here, baby.
There we go.
Pick a team, I hope. Jesus.
Hey, listen.
Wearing the Bills, touching the Panthers.
Journeyman. It's called a journeyman, all right?
This is the ultimate. He's got his Bills workout shirt on, touching his Panthers helmet with his Vikings horn.
You're wearing team-issued gear outside the facility. That's definitely a day.
Yeah, that's a shield fine.
Attaboy.
I'll wear it.
There you go.
No, I mean, as far as the Bryce Young thing goes, I'll say this. If they fire this coach within 2 years, Bryce is toast.
Oh,
right,
for sure.
Because that's the other piece of it. If you want to have a young rookie quarterback, you need to give him stability in every facet of his life. Right, I'm not just talking. From coaches to the people around him, to the mentors in his room, to who he surrounds himself outside of football with. Like, being a quarterback in the NFL is hard enough. Being a rookie quarterback or a second-year quarterback on a not great team is maybe the hardest thing. Right, so if you keep just rotating guys in and new language, new verbiage, new play calls, new snap counts over and over again, this kid's never going to be able to truly develop. And so I hope that this is a long-term hire. I hope this is hey, we are all in, everyone's in. We brought you on with the mindset that, hey, Bryce Young's our guy moving forward, and you guys signed off on that, and that David Tepper is just going to pull his fingers out of the pie and say, you guys figure this out. The longer he meddles in there and the more he gets trigger happy of firing coaches, that'll be more of the test of is CJ going to be able to be a star in this league or not.
Yeah. Mr. Tepper.
How much money do you have?
That's a hilarious question.
Unbelievable.
Man. Okay, do you guys want some dumb football questions here?
Hit me.
I got a mic. I got a mic.
Okay.
The owners are debating putting a salary cap on the quarterback position. Have you guys read this?
What? I have not seen this.
So it's in discussion of that no matter what, the quarterbacks will have their own. Let me find. Hold on, I gotta find.
Would it be outside the structure of the team cap?
Hold on. So this was reported last week. I found it here. Some NFL owners are discussing a potential quarterback salary cap amid an escalated market. There has certainly been discussion within the league among certain owners about even the idea of a quarterback cap, that at some point you don't want quarterback numbers to go over a certain percentage of your salary cap, right? So they're saying that all the owners would band together and say, hey, we are only paying your quarterback a maximum of, call it 12%, pick a number, right? And that's it, right? And
that's great for you guys. That's great for guards.
It's great for the rest of the team. Now, I don't know if it'll ever get passed because quarterback's going to sit there and be like, pay me my money, right? But it's an interesting thought concept that if all the owners got together and said every quarterback can make up to this amount, they don't have to, right? But it's saying like they can make up to 12% of the salary cap.
This is what the NBA does.
What's the salary cap?
250, 255.
So they're basically saying you can't make more than $25 million a year.
Well, 12% would be 12%, like 35 or
35.
40. Yeah.
It's like 35 or 40. And they're saying, but like it makes sense because it's the argument is
250.
But now this is the argument. You're saying, if I'm Josh Allen, I'm sitting there going, I signed a mega deal. 3-4 years ago, 2 years ago now, and now I am the 11th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And by no stretch of the imagination am I the 11th quarterback in the NFL, right? He's a top 5 quarterback, top 3. But Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence are now, because everyone just keeps stacking on top of each other, right? Like Justin Jefferson just made $35 million guess what? Jamar Chase next year is going to go, I want 36, right? And it spirals out of control. And then you have to have this huge giant course correct. And I think the owners are starting to see that is the trajectory which things are going. And it'll be curious to see if that's something that actually has some legs coming down the pipe or not.
So this is real quick for some context. This is essentially stealing what the NBA does. So the NBA they have a salary cap. Now the NBA has what's called a soft cap. So you can go over it and then into luxury taxes. You can re-sign your own players and go over the cap. But if you're over the cap, you can't sign external free agents unless they're like veteran minimum guys. Anyways, what the NBA does though is they have the league and the team cap, and then they have player caps called max and super max contracts that are worth a percentage of the cap. So players with 0 to 6 years of service time, if you're coming off your rookie scale contract, you can sign a rookie max, and it would be 25% of whatever the cap is. So as the cap goes up, cool, I'm a rookie max player. I then make whatever the cap is, I make 25% of it.
Right.
And then there's the Steph Currys and the LeBron James. If you're a 10 or more year service time guy, you can get 35% of the salary cap on a super duper max contract. I mean, it's also just like these front offices, it is your job to manage the salary cap. So now we're putting in more restraints because you can't manage, and
No,
I don't know.
That's not true. What happened was the teams, Jay's right. The teams can come together and they can go, hey, listen, we're not going to pay these guys over 10% of the cap, right? So say Baltimore's up next, and then Baltimore sits down with Lamar and they're like, listen, we can only offer you $25 million a year over 5 years. We'll give you $125 million. Lamar's going to go, I'm never playing football again. And he's going to leave and not come back, right? And then they're kind of screwed. Like, what do we do now, right? And then it's like, hopefully all the other teams are doing the same thing. Like, it's in good faith until it's in writing. I don't believe it.
No.
But until like they all literally sit down and go, yeah, we're all cool with this. It's like resetting the cap in 2010. Remember when they had cap restraints and then all of a sudden everybody had to go back and they reset the cap again? It's like they're trying to do that because Jay's right. They're forecasting and they're like, shit, here's the problem. And this word gets said a lot. Nobody pays attention to it, which is funny because that means nobody's listening. The precedent is constantly being set. He made 35. I'm making 36. Why? Because I'm the fucking next best, you idiot. And I don't get paid any less than him. Because he didn't get paid any less than the guy before him. And the guy before him didn't get paid any less for the fucking guy before him. So it's a long precedent.
Once he makes a mistake, the Browns make a mistake, and why should I now have to pay a quarterback more than Deshaun Watson?
Hey, you don't like it, I'll leave. I'll leave. Peace.
But what I'm saying is,
will pay me.
Maybe
this will
good.
pay them. That's the problem.
Right, but
the
these
next
are
team will
guardrails.
go, all right, I'll give him 36. We got it. We got the money. You don't. We do. That's
but
would
the league be better doing what the NBA is doing? I mean, would it be better to say, okay, you're either a supermax quarterback or you're something below?
I think the league would be better because the teams would be better.
Yeah, they'd have more money.
And the other piece of this too is if we get to that point where it's like, hey, it couldn't be 10 years because that's like a dinosaur in the NFL, right? So it'd have to be like, okay, let's use the NBA model. It's like, okay, if you finish your rookie scale, then you have a 3-year window where you're in this rookie max, and then after 9 years, right, you can make your huge money. I think it'd be good because then you truly see quarterbacks like wanting to stay in the same system, wanting to build their own team, wanting to bring guys like be like, hey, I'm the head of this team, because regardless if I'm getting paid $35 million from the Vikings or $35 million from the Jets, like it's the same dollar. Now I can choose what city I want to pick in, what city I want to put my family in, what city I want to grow in, what city I want to build with, and it's not this bidding war that goes back and forth. I think it'd be good for the league. Now it's not good for quarterbacks, right? I mean, I'm all about advocating players making as much money as humanly possible. But if you look at this from a league's perspective, it makes sense of higher quality football with teams having more money to spread around to higher quality players.
Running backs are like, this is great.
This is awesome. More money for us?
Like, please pay me something. Peanuts.
That's the problem, though, is no one's going to do it. No quarterback's going to go take less to build a franchise. Because who's standing in between them? The agent.
Yeah,
the agent's
right.
like, you're not going to pay it. Wait. You're going to give us 25 and they're going to give us 60? Fuck over here. I don't give
for sure,
a shit.
right? That's it's like
we're going to Mars. $60 million. $60 million.
Well, but I think it's the same amount of money being paid to the players. It's just that quarterbacks make less than they would, and guards make more, and running backs
I think
make
it's great.
more.
but it's never going to happen. Like unless every owner unanimously votes that in, because there's going to be owners that go, well, who the fuck says I don't want to pay somebody more than that?
Correct.
Like, some owners are going to go, I'm okay with giving the quarterback 25% of the cap, and it sounds like you guys want to stop at 10, so I'm out of this. Like, everybody thinks differently, and businesses are built a lot differently. But if you can get this to pass, you'd get a lot better teams. You would get way better teams out there, because most teams have to spend all their fucking money on their quarterback. And then you have to go around and go, where are the positions that we can go cheap? All right, D tackle, find me a nose tackle, find me some guards, center, maybe.
Third tight end, find me a third tight end.
Right? Like, you're dealing with some shit that you're like, people are looking, like you said, you look at it, and you're like, I can't tell these names from anybody.
The third tight ends are pumped about this.
Quarterback's
Johnny Munt
making,
is like,
yeah,
it's great.
Quarterback's making $1 billion. I forgot. Hey, and if you're the KC Chiefs and you can pull that off, that's why I'm saying, like, Andy Reid is always creative. And even the years that we're like, there's no way they're fucking doing it, he comes out of nowhere and just kicks everybody in the teeth. Like, putting a lot of pressure on a lot of new coaches.
Well, I mean, like, Mahomes is now the 10th highest paid quarterback. Like, you don't think eventually he's going to want to restructure and want to make it, like, that's the thing. It keeps just compounding.
He's probably looking at them every day.
Where
like,
does the line? Like, where does the line end? Like, we talked about we talked about Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen setting it at, they were making $45 a year, I think, and that was only, what, 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. Right? So you're telling me that in 2 years, it's gone up $10 million? So you're saying that in 2 years, like, let's project, who's going to be a quarterback that's a young quarterback that's going to be up in 2 years?
CJ
Stroud,
Purdy.
Purdy. So you can say they're going to make 65? Are we going to say all of a sudden now that in 2 years it's going to keep going 65 and 75? Like, where does the line stop? And that's where I think the owners are like, this is getting a little out of control. Like, we have to figure out a way to rein this in. Now, again, I'm with Boone. I don't think you can get 32 owners to agree to this, but something has to change, or else it's never going to end.
No, it's going to be great. All these teams are just going to fucking murder themselves. It's going to be hilarious, because you're going to see a team that pays a quarterback $400 million over 5 years and is like, well, we had to do it or else somebody else would. When technically everyone's looking at them like, you guys are stupid. We definitely would not have done that, right?
It's called the Browns. The Browns just did.
Oh, wait, yeah, that did happen. I forgot. The owner took over and was like, I can write this shit. It's my money anyways. What do you want? What do you want?
All right, let's do some dumb football questions here. You can always submit via the comment section on the OLine Committee YouTube channel. No question is too dumb to be brought up on this show. Let's start with, let's see here. Let's start with Pablo, who wants to know, I wonder how it is in the NFL where one player doesn't get along with another player, or more generally, how does it work when and if you have friction between players and they just don't like each other behind the scenes?
This is a great question. You know, you'd be surprised at how professional two guys that don't like each other in the NFL can really be. Because there's a lot of guys that don't like each other. I mean, a lot of guys don't fucking like each other, whether it be because we're just around each other all day, and by week 8, you're like, I'm so sick of hearing that stupid fucking laugh coming from that corner over there. And that group that eats breakfast every day, I already know who the fuck it is. Like, you just... But all of a sudden, you'll see that guy, and you'll be, oh, hey, what's up, man? You good? Feel good? All right, man, good luck this week. Like, there's just something about it. And now there is times where there's guys that you fucking hate, and you're just like, you walk by each other, and it's almost like you don't see them. They don't see you. You cannot bring tension to that, though, because if you guys become a problem, and I don't give a fuck if you are the A-star player or the C-star players, you will get cut. You will both get cussed the fuck out in front of everybody, because at the end of the day, you are just as worthless as the rest of us. And if you guys start battling it out and creating this line in the sand for the team, coaches see that quickly and they're like, end this shit now. Like, I've had coaches come to me constantly like, hey, I hear there's a rift between so-and-so and so-and-so. Yeah, little shit, end it now. End it fucking now before it becomes a bigger issue. When I've seen the small things turn into really big things, it turned into big fights, fists were thrown, walls were broken, team was divided. Like, it just turns into a problem, and coaches are really good at seeing it and kind of trying to sidestep it, or at least talk you off the ledge of fighting. And I will say this, there's a lot of fights between O-line and D-line that's hilarious, because they'll be knocked down, drag out, and then once practice is over, you'll be in the locker room like, hey, man, we're cool, right? And they're like, yeah, no, for sure, man, we're good. Like, you're like, all right, at least we know how to handle our business. The problem is when you get into a fight with like a DB or a linebacker or a receiver, because then those guys, they don't fight fair. They're constantly talking shit, and you're like, God damn, shut the fuck up. Like, D linemen are like, yo, we squashed this shit, it's over. You're like, all right, appreciate it. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, you can't carry any negative tension into the locker room. Like, you can sit in your O-line room when the door shuts and be like, can you believe that idiot? Right? Like, or be like, that dude is so dumb. Like, I wish he would get ran over by a car. Right? Like,
That's
all
been
those
a
things.
lot.
But like, but then at the end of the day, like, it's exactly like Boone said. You're like, but we need them to win on Sundays, right? So we will tolerate them, right? And I don't have to bring them over to my house. I don't have to invite them to family like Christmas. Like, and again, if he got hit by a car tomorrow, I would be like, so sad. But like, if he does his thing on Sunday, so be it. We tolerate him. We move on.
Yeah, this is a good follow-up here, actually, from Tony Owens. Can one bad teammate tank an entire season?
Oh, yeah.
Yes and no.
I'd say more yes.
It depends on the level of the player, and if he's in that tier of uncuttable or not. Right? Because there's a tier on every team that like they're untouchables.
I was assuming that was the question, by the way. He was an uncuttable player. Because if you're just a shitbag,
if you're just
done.
a shitbag and you're just
you're
like
out. They're cutting you. You're fucking gone.
Again, the next question they're going to ask you is aisle or window, right? Like where do you want to sit on the plane?
Yeah, let's say you're a starter and you're one of the 10 highest paid guys.
It'll fuck it all up. It'll fuck the whole thing up.
It could screw the whole thing up.
Especially when they start talking, and then like sometimes they'll just start ranting out loud, and they'll be like, and the quarterback can't throw the ball, and then a couple guys will be like, he's not wrong. Quarterback can't throw the ball. What the fuck are we throwing the ball so much? And all of a sudden it's like, defense can't stop a fucking nosebleed. And you're like, yeah, they can't stop the run game. What the fuck, man? You guys are out there a lot. You're not giving us a lot of chance. Like instantly things start spreading. And that's why coaches are quick to be, I think when highlights have kind of become a thing of the past. And I think coaches are sick of sucking each other off and being like, this is great. Where now it becomes a low light session. Let's talk about how we all fucked up. Defense, this is where we fucked up. Special teams, this is where we fucked up. Offense, this is where we fucked up. So that you all get the feeling that you're stupid and you suck. And there's more to be worked on. Like no one person can point a finger. Now I've been on teams where that is a very biased situation. And the fuck ups only come from one side of the ball. And that's when the fingers start to get pointed.
2016.
Right? And you're like, hey, get that finger out of my fucking face. There's not a lot we can do. And it's like, what finger? What finger? Am I bothering you? Am I bothering you?
I'm not touching you.
No, I'm not touching That's exactly what it was the entire year. And that instantly can cause friction because people start getting upset and you're like, hey, you need to calm down. Like it's okay. Sometimes it's harder when it comes from the coaches. There's not a lot of ways you can chill a coach out. You can chill the players out by being like, hey man, you need to chill. Half the team hates you and they're gonna fucking waterboard you if you don't stop. Right? Like a coach, you just kind of got to be like, please stop. Like, we get it. We're fixing it. We're trying really fucking hard. And then all of a sudden they don't. And you're like, this is just going to get worse. It's just going to keep going out because then all of a sudden the team starts hating each other. And one side hates the other side. And the other side's like, please don't hate us. We're trying so hard. We're doing all we can. And they're like, you guys are terrible. And you're like, ah. And then the worst is when the teammate that is like cussing everybody out and getting mad goes in there and then fucks it up. And then you're like, well, now this just isn't going to help anything. Like, it's just a mess, dude. That's why coaches, the great coaches, they see this coming from a long ways away. Hey, I noticed someone had an attitude today. What's that about? Yeah, he's really pissed he's not getting the ball. Well, tell him to shut the fuck up. Like, hey, coach said shut up. Don't want to hear it anymore. Neither do we. Okay, good.
Well, the other side of this coin, too, though, is if a star player tries to turn the team against the coaches. Right? If a star player comes in and be like, these idiots don't know what they're talking about, or like, we're not running that. Why would we put that in? What a waste of our time. Like, I've seen that too. And that can be, if you have a young team and you've got an older player that like is bagging on your position coach or something like that, like then the young player's like, oh, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, screw that guy. And then it just snowballs and you lose the room, you lose the team.
I covered a team where that kind of happened with the 2009-10 Vikings, where Brett Favre came in as a 39-year-old and Brad Childress was the head coach and the offensive mastermind and wanted plays run a certain way. And Brett would get up to the line of scrimmage. And there's a clip even that I don't know how it made like the NFL's, sounds of the week or whatever. This is from 15 years ago. But there's a clip of like Brett checks something at the line of scrimmage that you're not supposed to check.
Don't do it.
And it's a touchdown. And he's coming back, jumping up, high-fiving, and Brad walks up to him and he's like, what happened? Like, why did you change that? He's like, we scored a touchdown, coach, you know? But he was just kind of mocking him. And the next year, the wheels came off. He got fired 5 weeks into the season. You know, it is, boy.
Dude, and to be fair, to all the young players that are listening, because I know there are some that are listening, that is an unwinnable situation for you. If you are a young player and you get an old school player, especially like someone with the credibility of Brett Favre that comes in and is like, these coaches are fucking stupid. Yeah. Your instant response is, yeah, they are.
Yeah, for
they
sure.
Are. They are fucking stupid, aren't they? Like, dude, I remember being young and hearing that a lot. And they were like, it's fucking stupid, isn't it? And they'd look at you and be like, so dumb. Please, God, don't let the coach have heard me say that. Please, I didn't say that out loud. Like,
you
don't agree.
Those dudes are idiots. Okay, he's not in here. Right? Like, do the quick, like, is the door shut?
Because you want the boys in the room to love you more than anything. And if you go, I don't know, guys, I think they're doing okay.
Shut up, rookie, I'll stab you.
Oh, yeah, you're not getting invited to barbecues. You're not going out with them anymore. Pre-game meals, not a fucking chance. Like, you agree with the group or you are not a part of the group.
You're getting fined for Stockholm Syndrome. Love thy captor.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm not kidding, man. There have been some times. And when I was young, it was crazy because I had dudes like Takeo Spikes and Manny Lawson. And I mean, it was insane. And they would be like, this is fucking crazy. And he'd be like, just like Jay said, looking around, like, is anyone looking? Yeah, it is. It is. I know.
Yeah, dude, the best advice I can give a young player is sit in the corner, keep your head down,
shut the fuck up,
and just speak when spoken to. Right? If those conversations start coming up on the team plane, on the bus,
go
in the
down.
Meeting room, just open the playbook, watch some film, click the iPad on, and be like, oh, sorry, I wasn't listening. Like, just chill out. Because if you get yourself wrapped up in that as a young player and all of a sudden it gets back to the coach.
Oh, we've heard it get back to the coach too. Don't get me wrong. There are times in camp where you've just had it and you are like blowing up and you're like, fuck everybody. Him. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like, those are different times. It's hot. You're hungry. Guys are kind of letting you go. It's when you do the, like, you have a quiet meeting in a closed door room and you're like, hey, we need to talk. And you're like, these guys are fucking stupid. Like, that's when you need to be like, coach said I need to go get the coffee. I'm going to go, snacks look like they're not refilled. I'm going to go get new snacks.
I don't even know if I've told you this story, but I've had this happening, and I'm definitely not naming names here.
Never.
But I got a text from a head coach that said, hey, can you meet me for breakfast tomorrow morning? And this is in the middle of the season. And I'm like, oh, shit.
You said a head coach?
Head coach. And I was like,
snitch.
For sure. Yeah, what's going on? Like, right? And I'm like, so I get there. He's like, what time? I was like, I'm in there at 7. He goes, I'll be in there. And so I show up at 6:45, and he's already waiting for me. And I sit down, and he goes, all right, I need to ask you a question. I was like, okay. He goes, what do you think about this OLine coach? Like, truly, what do you think about him?
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, he's like, you're not in trouble. Like, you're not in trouble. Like, I'm trying to be a good evaluator, trying to feel like I just really want to know. And I kind of went in my piece of like, I think he's a really good vets coach. I think he does a really nice job with the structuring. I think he's a little limited on the development side with young players. Like, but I was like, I really love the guy. Like, he's giving me opportunity. Like, it's such a weird position to be in because you're trying to be honest, but at the same time, you're like, that's my OLine coach. Like, I don't know what to do.
Isn't he only asking you that question because he's
not asking me he doesn't want me to give him a glowing review, right? Like, he's not asking me to be like, oh, I love this dude, I'd die for this guy, right?
That'd be a sociopathic move as a head coach to like grab one offensive lineman.
But that's the kind of thing is, as an O lineman, again, remember, I was never the guy, right? Like, I was never the guy in the room. Like, and I had multiple line coaches tell me, like, I was more the glue guy in the room. Like, I was the temperature gauge. Like, they could always kind of come to me and be like, how's the room? How are things? You're kind of like, you're a smart player. You know what you're doing. How are guys? And so I'm having this conversation with this head coach. I'm like, is this? He's like, okay, I really appreciate that. And I was like, yeah, but at the end of the day, like, I don't want to get anyone fired. Like, that's not why I'm here. Like, I want to play, and I don't care who my coach is. And he's like, no. So 2 weeks later, I'm sitting in there at the end of the day. I used to stay after and watch film after meetings, and I do all my studying at the facility so that when I got home, I could truly just be home with my wife. And so, like, I'm sitting there by myself, going through my studying, doing my thing, and the OLine coach walks in the room. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? And he sits in the front of the room, puts his feet up on the table like he always does, and he goes, what do I need to do better? What do I need to do better, Jeremiah? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I just feel like I'm not developing these young guys well enough. Like, I just feel like, I mean, there's some developmental things that aren't going our way. We have some young players, and, it's kind of been talked in the building that we got to develop guys better. And I'm just sitting there like, please put the
who
words
said that?
out of your mouth and be like, yeah, I heard you didn't like I developed guys well.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, I know. He's like, why are you the only one sitting in here? Where's the young guys? And I was like, I don't know. I always do this, coach. Like, I've done this my entire career. Like, and then like, sure as shit, 2 days later, guess who's watching film with me after practice? All the rookies, all the second year guys, like, in the whole thing. And so that just goes back to, like, you never know what these coaches will do. Cause again, I was put in an impossible situation. Right, like if I sit there and lie to the head coach and be like, "This dude's the best guy ever," he's never been better. I mean, he's gonna look at me like, But at the same time, like if I be honest, then like, did I get a guy fired? Am I? It's an impossible situation to be in as a player that's not an untouchable player. Right?
I agree.
We talked about that. I was not an untouchable player by any means of the imagination any year that I was in the NFL. Right, and so it was just this really, and so that goes back to like, can one player kill it? Yes and no. Right. Yeah. Maybe not even out of bad intentions, not have any bad intentions at all, but you just sit there and say, hey, this is what I think. This is where I'm at. I've done all these things. It's a weird place to be, but yeah, that was an interesting. I mean, I called my wife. I was like, I don't know what just happened. Like, I called my agent. I was like, I don't know what just happened. Like,
what did your agent say?
Be honest. He goes, be honest. He goes, at the end of the day, like, you are a pawn. And like, if you're honest with the head coach, like, he has more weight than the positional coach. Like, and if he loves you, then he'll love you more. Like, if he trusts you with this, that's a good thing, right? Like, and it's like he was basically just like, listen, you got to look out for number one, right? This is the NFL. You got to look out for yourself. Right?
I want to flip this scenario, but like put Boone in that room instead, so that he can just tee off on this coach and get.
No, so I actually had that happen twice in my career. 2 owners actually came to me and asked me about the head coaches, and it was in their office that they were like, "Hey, we need to talk," and I was like, "I have not done anything bad." They're like, "No, we just need to talk." Real quick.
Immediate reaction, like,
immediate.
I'm good. Do you want to look through my phone? Do you want my?
I haven't been fined in a
returns?
long time. I'm being really good, and they were like, "No, come to my office," and they asked the same questions. It's actually kind of commonly asked. And at the first time I was asked, I was really nervous. And I was like, I don't know what to say. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to say. And he said exactly that. Just tell me the truth. Booney, we're friends. Tell me the truth. What are we doing here? And I did. And he was like, great. I'm cool. And then I had it happen with another owner where he came to me and was like, I need to know what's going on. And I need to know what you think. And the first time I called my agent, they said the same thing that Jay said. You need to tell him the truth. Number one, you don't know what he's thinking. He could be fucking with you. He could be fucking with the coach. He's like, he's just trying to get in, and that's the one thing, and we say this a lot, and we tell our guys all the time, is don't ever lie. If you don't like something that no one else likes, that's fucking fine. We're all different. But if you lie and something transpires because of that, and everyone finds out that it came back to you because you don't know what's being said behind your room. Like, the minute the owner pulled me in, I was like, this is real. And he was like, I want you to tell me about that coach. You like him? Think we should keep him? I was like,
dude. Oh, man.
This is interesting. This is interesting. Ooh, hello. I go, this is way above my pay grade. And he was like, no, it's not. Far. He's like, no, it's not. You're with him all day. Tell me about him. I'm going to tell him the truth. I love him. I think he's a great dude.
What coach you talking about?
No, they don't ask you to stutter in there. They ask you to sit up straight and be real with them, because they're like, hey, I'm making a real decision and I need to fucking know right now. And you're like, and it was in that moment that I was like, I love him. I think he works as hard as everybody else here, if not harder. And I think it's fucking only right that he stays. I think the guys love him, and I think at times things happen, and it is what it is. But the dude's a motherfucking dog, and that's what leads boys. Like, you send the dogs out first, and then we come following after. It was a very scary moment, because you're like, dude, this is a lot on me, and I don't want to say the wrong thing and then I get cut, right? Like, you don't know what's going on, especially because I know, dude, it's hard, dude. Sometimes, and people are like, oh, it's so easy to be in the NFL. You're like, it's not. A lot of it is questions that you're like, don't fuck this answer up.
Well, and at the same time, it goes against every fiber of your being as an O-lineman of like, right, we die as one, we live as one.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no bus throwing, like the whole bit. And then when you get singled out by a position of severe influence that has a complete power over your career, your livelihood, like, it's really hard to flip the switch from like, I protect all the boys no matter what, to like, I got to protect myself here a little bit. Yeah. Like, I have to be a little bit selfish in this moment for my career to continue, or else I could be the one that's going to end up falling on the sword for no reason, right? Like, it's an impossible position to be in.
It really is, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. Great responsibility.
Yeah, it is. It's fun.
Man, that was one of the best dumb football questions that's ever been asked by Tony Owens right there.
Thank you,
Tony.
Tony.
Led to like 12 minutes of amazing stories. If you guys haven't already clicked the like button and the subscribe button, please help us out by doing so on the OLine Committee YouTube channel, and be on the lookout for another film review here as well. And if you're not following us all across any social media platform, at OLine Committee on Twitter and X, on Instagram. So hit us up. That's Alex Boone, Jeremiah Sirles. I'm Phil Mackey. We'll see you next time on the OLine Committee.